Welcome to Canvas Projects, a virtual program offering from the Pflugerville Public Library. I'm Meg Miller, an Adult Services Librarian, here with another fun project geared to ages 12 and up for you to complete. Those who registered through the library calendar can pick up their material supply kits. And for everyone else watching, we hope you give these techniques a try. This month's project is a velvet flock canvas. Let's start with a look at the supplies being provided. In our bags this month, you have a few things. You have some paper, a piece of transfer, a couple of designs. Yours will be connected. Mine have been separated already. And then just a piece of copy paper that we'll use with the flocking step. We can set those aside for now. The little 2-ounce portion cup, this is the flock powder. And then our two little black paint pots, those are actually the tinted adhesive. And then our paint pot strip is some fluorescents. We also have the flat brush in this month's kit and a 6x6 square canvas panel. About half of them will have the plastic on them, so if yours does, you'll just need to remove it before you start your project. Some extra stuff you might decide you want to have for this particular one. A little bit of water to clean your brushes with if you're using just the one brush from the kit. If you've got other paint brushes or you have maybe done some of our canvas projects before and so you have other paint brushes, just some extra paint brushes so that you've got maybe one per color. If that is something you'd want to do, you have to clean a little bit less between your brushes. But some paper towels to help us clean our brushes. And I did, for transferring the design onto the canvas, you can really just use the tail end of your paintbrush. But if you've got something a little bit sturdier, like the end of a pen, not the actual pen itself really, although you could, or a dowel or something a little bit sturdier to help you draw that on with, that would be something that might be helpful. But other than that, like I said, if you've got the plastic on your canvas, you're going to want to remove that plastic. This is going to be a different size canvas panel. We just had enough for the kits, so I need to do this on a slightly different. But remember, yours is a 6x6. A little off, you may have noticed in the bag tag if you got one. It does say 6x6 canvas, but then the other supplies listed are actually for a different project. Originally, I had the supplies to do something we've done before, just kind of a 3D botanical with dried flowers where you kind of Mod Podge them on. But then I had this fluorescent paint set. It's this Soho Urban Artist, so an orange, a pink, a red, fluorescent yellow, fluorescent green, and fluorescent blue that I had grabbed at our Jerry's Artorama and just was waiting for a cool project to do with them. And then our local Michaels had this folk art velvet crush on deep discount. So I was able to snag these up. And so this month's project quickly pivoted to this velvet flock canvas. So it comes in two parts. The smaller bottle is a tinted adhesive, and then our larger bottle here is that flocking powder. I just was so excited. These kind of the velvet posters, you remember, were something that I loved to look at or to pick up at our school's Scholastic Book Fair. So for my transfer paper, I'm just going to lay that on my canvas, kind of where I want my design. You have about a half a sheet of this, so you really have more than enough. I'm just going to put my little guy on there, kind of centered where I want him. And I'm going to go ahead and trace on, kind of starting at the inside. And I'll use this pen just to kind of see how that does. The paint brushes are not quite as sturdy. So while it worked just fine, it didn't actually, it wasn't as solid a feel kind of as I was sketching it out as a pen or a pencil or something else like that would be. So I'm just going to draw this over all of the areas. You see I'm also holding down the design so that it doesn't shift. I could use some masking tape or painter's tape or something to really make sure it stayed in place as I traced all these lines. But just for the purposes of the video and to just kind of keep us rolling along, I'm just kind of using my hands to steady it. With the pen or pencil, it's a little bit easier for me to see what lines I have gone over. If you are using the paintbrush end, just kind of hold your paper, lift a corner, make sure, yep, okay, I got all those lines, and then keep going, drawing the other lines. This particular little book design came from Canva. I just liked the thicker lines that it had that made just a really fun little piece for this velvet flock project. Now, if you've got a particular idea or excellent artistic skills and want to completely design something else, we would love to see it as always. This was just kind of something that I felt like gave a good kind of fuzzy look, gave some areas for that flocking to adhere to, and also space for this paint to really shine as well. So just kind of checking. Oh, I need this guy down here. Just line across the bottom. Back up this side. Okay, I did his little eyeballs. I need his mouth and his little arms. There we go. Really not being too like exacting with my sketching, just because I really only need kind of those lines down there, and not, you know, right there. As I paint, I'll be going around and probably covering up some of that, but then later as I come in to do the flocking, that will be something that will be covered up and I can really clean up there, especially if you've got some round brushes, smaller detail brushes versus the square brush that we've provided in the kit, because it's got a pretty solid area for painting. I did go ahead and choose the flat brush because I felt like it would be a little bit easier for adding kind of your paint. On this book, I love this blue. And we just bring him in. The flat brush also allows for some good coverage. I can use the edge if I need to get a little bit tighter in the detail there. Just kind of come across. Smooth this paint out. Really nice. And you can pretty much tell in the video that this first coat of the fluorescent doesn't 100% get like maybe as solid a coverage as you might want for your project, depending on how you want it to look. So you may, Canvas Projects is a great one. It's one where you can take the time that you need to complete these projects and give time for drying, something our in-person programs just don't have the luxury of. So you could do first coat of paint, kind of let it set for a little bit, dry, and then come back and add a second coat with a little bit more eye towards being right at those lines where you don't want, where you're going to ultimately put the flocking. I'm going to rotate my canvas so I don't lay my hand on areas that have already been painted in prep. I definitely did that. I might even still have a little bit of orange paint on my hand, but that happens. All right, we need his eyeballs, his blue eyes. A little bit around this side, around this side, a little bit more paint. The amount of supplies, as always, are probably more than you need. So if you've even done other canvas projects and you've got other paint colors that you think would look great with the velvet flock look and you want to pull those into your design, that's perfectly wonderful as well. All right, so for this, since I've got enough brushes, I would just kind of go on to the next brush, clean that brush a little bit later. Although, for this particular one, I am going to go ahead and give them a little bit of love right now. There we go, much better. So for purposes of video, so you don't have to kind of watch the paint dry, as it were, I do have a slightly farther along in the process canvas. So this is that other design. This one I definitely did multiple layers of the paint so that you can really see the paint more than you see the canvas underneath. I also had a gold paint pen left over from a previous project, so I pulled that in and kind of gave this, since I gave 7 sections versus 6 sections, as I was kind of eyeballing this particular design out. In my original example, so this is a very kind of like laid out, I went a little bit more kind of psychedelic with that background. His little flocking, I did this at home and then brought it in, so his travel is not the best for this particular project. Once you get it, the flocking on there, you're going to want to let it set for a while before you display it. You're also, with the flocking process, going to take a little bit of time, because you'll do a first pass. So like I've started here with these first 2 words, where the tinted adhesive, so these black paint pots are here. We'll make sure we've got that all mixed up and it's not watery. It's a good dark color. And I'm just going to use that to come here and paint over this particular design. And as I said, this is really going to cover up those areas where your paint either went into your design or where maybe it didn't quite make it to the design. So you can kind of fill those in. This gives a good dark coverage. Excellent. A little bit here with the E. These are kind of connected. The arm. I want to make sure that I'm getting good coverage. Really coming to all those edges. Oh, yes. It's got a little bit of a skinny part there. Comes down. And we'll go into another little skinny part. Perfect. So really like that for that first coat. And then we're going to let that dry. This is pretty close to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding a second coat to it. And I really want to be generous with this. You've got more than enough of this tinted adhesive with these 2 that you're going to be able to really honestly do this on another project if you've got another canvas or something else that you want to flock. I believe Folk Art does show a project where it's like a little figurine that they painted in the adhesive and then put the flocking onto. So if you've got something like that or a little shape that you would want to do, that would be something that you could do with your extra flocking material. So I'm not even going to use one of these paint pots of the adhesive to do this part of the project. So I'm going to just come here, being very generous, as I said, with the tinted adhesive, because this is what it's going to stick to right now. And this is where we're going to need that piece of copy paper, or if you've got like a little tray or something that you don't mind. Honestly, even a paper plate would probably work pretty well for this stage of the process. You'll just be rescuing the flock that doesn't adhere to your project so that it can be reused. I'm just going to leave with it what adheres. Alright, almost there. A couple more letters. Oh, that I lost the center of that, I think. That's alright. It will still read as your. We've got the center bottom part of that O that's still visible. Make sure we got a little bit of green. And if I've got some dry area in the middle of that, I could probably come back and tap a little bit of blue there just so that they would see, your project would have that piece. Alright, and I am going to go ahead, even though this self is not quite dry, I'm going to give it some more. Another little coat. Excellent. There we go. My L, and F. Okay. So now I've got a really good coat, very ready. Set that aside, put this over here, get my piece of copy paper, put my canvas on here, open my little two ounce cup, and I really am just going to kind of knock this onto the canvas where that wet adhesive is. Now this is another reason, this stage is another reason you want to make sure that you've given yourself time for your background paints to set. If they are tacky, it's very likely that this flocking will want to stick to that. I also noticed that I needed to be a little bit methodical as I dipped my paintbrush into the tinted adhesive, so that as I pulled out and came back to the canvas, I didn't splatter. Which would leave little black dots that will then take on the flocking. All right, so I have completely spread all of my flocking onto here. Just going to kind of give it a little shuffle and a little shake. Really get that flocking in all of the parts of the design. Just looks like a giant pile, doesn't it? All right, here we go, moment of truth. Drop here. Just gonna gently tap, tap, tap. Ooh, look at that. Gently tap, tap, tap. Kind of blow a little bit of the extra dust off. And honestly, now that that's on there, here we're gonna rescue this back into our cup. I'm definitely going to need to clean my workspace after this. You may decide to cover your workspace before you even start. I'm just going to go ahead, in case any areas were missed, I'm just going to put it back on. Just sprinkle right over those areas where I put the tinted adhesive. Shovel around. Tap, 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 tap. And there you have it, one velvet flocked. I don't know if you can quite see it in the video, but you got those raised up areas. And now, if you see, there's a little bit of the dark black on there, but it really is just that powder. So I'm gonna wait a while for this to dry before I really start trying to brush away some of that excess. That way that this has time to set. And I can see that while I lost the little center of that O, I got the tinted adhesive a little too close. I could come back with a little bit of blue right there. I see just enough of dry space that doesn't have the flocking, that it should be fine. As always, thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoy these projects and that you share your particular project with us going forward. Thanks for watching.